Operation Domination is underway. The ultimate game plan to dominate your NFL experience. With your hosts, Dan
you gotta be confident about your Achilles when you show up.
Yeah, I mean, I got him
and Adam LaRue. Don't hope to be great and dominate.
And welcome back to Operation Domination. I am not Dan Mader, but I will be hosting today along with Chase here. Chase, how's it going?
It's going all right. Yeah, Dan's out of town this week. He's frolicking on the beach in the Dominican Republic with his lovely wife, or at least we hope he's with his lovely wife. So never fear, though. We still have a full lineup of Operation Domination for you, not just today, but all week like we normally do. We'll still have the Dr. Brian Scott injury episode tomorrow with myself hosting, and then Adam is going to have the betting episode with Chaz Filardi. We're still going to run you through all of the week's best prop bets and best plays there too. So never fear. We are still here to help you not hope to win, but to be great and dominate here on Operation Domination. So let's get her going.
Yeah, absolutely. We can start it right off with the one where I think both of us are a little biased, but we'll talk about it anyways. So one of the questions, this was kind of great. Dan gives us these questions for this first section. So he's the one generating the questions and he's not here. Anyways, first question. Daniel Jones or Jackson Dart as the starter for your quarterbacks this week? And Chase, I'm going to kick it to you. I have a big difference in these guys. I'll just say that this week, at least.
Yeah, for this week, I agree with you. I do too. Listen, Daniel Jones here, he's the quarterback 10 on a points per game basis. He's quarterback 7 overall on the season. He's been playing lights out. I would like to remind everybody that someone on this show has been in on him the whole time there. And I know that you being a Colts fan, you're excited to see what he's been doing this season too. But no, it's Daniel Jones for me over Jackson Dart this week. I mean, Dart, theoretically, I mean, he's only the quarterback 34, but you got to remember he only saw like literally a smidge of time in the first 2 games that he played. So really you got to take his stats and parse them out over 3 games only. And if you look at that, he's honestly almost exactly dead even with Daniel Jones in terms of his points per game. He would actually rank about quarterback 10 himself on a points per game basis because of the points that he scored have all been literally over 3 games, not the first 2 where he had like a couple of snaps. But when you look at who they're facing this week, I mean, the Chargers, they only give up the 25th most points to opposing quarterbacks. But Denver is tough. The Broncos who are facing Jackson Dart this week, they're tough. They give up the second fewest points to opposing quarterbacks. So the advantage is Jones there on the matchup. If you look at what they've done lately, Jones has back-to-back games with multiple touchdown passes here. And I think that when you look at how they're using Jackson Dart in New York, I think they're getting more comfortable with him as he gets more comfortable, but I think they're still kind of protecting him in that pass game. They're not really allowing him to turn it loose. And honestly, who's he going to turn it loose to right now? He really doesn't have a whole ton of weaponry right now. So I think with the weapons they have at their disposal, the advantage still goes to Daniel Jones there as well. They both have nice rushing upside. Actually, Daniel Jones, like I said last week, he still hasn't really turned it loose, but he does still have 4 rushing touchdowns on the season, which is among the leaders there for quarterbacks. And as long as you're going to get in the end zone on the ground, you're good for a quarterback. Dart has been running the ball very well, very effectively, but he kind of has to because, I mean, what else is going on there in that offense outside of maybe Cam Scatabo? So for me, it's Daniel Jones over Jackson Dart this week. I like Jackson the rest of the season. If you have to play him, I like him in super flex formats, but Daniel Jones is a locked-in starter right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jackson Dart, rather, both of them have impressed me, but Jackson Dart has impressed me. I think he's been a little bit better early on in his NFL career than I expected. Want to give him props.
Big time.
For sure. But having said that, I think the reality of the situation, like just straight up, he is in the lowest over-under of the week, and he is the team that is not favored. That is just a tough spot to want to play that quarterback for me personally in a 12-person league. I have him as my QB 18. I have Daniel Jones at QB 10.
Plus, I always got to take an opportunity to carry the flag for my boy Danny Dimes or Indiana Jones or whatever anybody wants to call him now. I'm still hung up on Danny Dimes, so I'm a big Daniel Jones guy still.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a recent convert, but I'm right there with you now.
Well, now that he's got you guys as one of the only one-loss teams in the league, yeah.
Winning will change everything.
Right.
On to our next one. Speaking of some teams who, team that could use some wins for the Saints here. For the flex, should he put Saints wide receiver Chris Olave or Broncos running back J.K. Dobbins, who is playing against the Giants? Olave is against the Bears, by the way. So what are your thoughts here, Chase, between these two?
I'll get it out of the way real quick. I'm going with Dobbins over Olave right now. And when I look at it, I mean, Dobbins facing the Giants. Giants give up the 10th most points to opposing running backs there. They did just hold Saquon to his worst fantasy output of the season, but it was a Thursday game. Running backs on a Thursday game is always a weird hit or miss proposition. We'll actually return to that thought in a minute here too. But Chicago, on the other hand, has given up the 7th most points to the wide receiver position, but they faced some pretty good wide receiver offenses, to be honest with you. I mean, they faced Minnesota, they faced Detroit, they faced Dallas in Pickens' first game without CD, and he went off. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily sure they're quite as bad against wide receivers as maybe their record looks like. They've been better lately. They did shut down the Las Vegas wide receivers. Washington did get 131 yards and 2 scores from their wide receivers, but it was Chris Moore, who was wide receiver 19 on the week, weirdly enough, with only 46 yards and a touchdown. And then the other touchdown went to Luke McCaffrey on his only catch. So it wasn't like those guys tore it up on him. I do expect Denver to win. So I think they're going to keep the Giants in check for the most part. So I think they're going to be going to the gut run. They're going to pound the Giants into submission there. I think that Chicago game probably is a little closer. I think Chicago can limit Olave. Now they are missing Jalen Johnson, but New Orleans has been a pretty dink and dunk offense in terms of their passing attack. Rattler is just 29th in the league in air yards per attempt. He does not throw the ball downfield much, so they're going to go short with him. So you might get a bunch of catches for Olave, but I don't know if you're going to get a ton of yards. I don't know that he's going to score. Chicago does allow the 6th most yards per pass attempt, which in my way of thinking doesn't necessarily bode great for Olave so much as maybe this is one of those Rashid Shaheed sneaky games where he gets loose for 1 or 2 big ones and really is the passing offense there. But I'm going with Dobbins over Olave here. I like his setup better.
Yeah, I'm with Dobbins as well, but to me, it was a lot closer than I expected it to be.
It is close.
Just given, I talked about the over-under for the Giants game, Giants-Denver game in the last part, but Vegas is expecting a decently high-scoring game for Chicago and New Orleans.
Weirdly
enough. But ultimately, Chris Olave has just been a guy in half-point PPR, which is largely what we base the show off of.
Yep.
He's just been a floor play, man, where you get between 8 and 12 points, but you're not really getting any more of that. Dobbins has the lower floor. He came off of, I believe, around a 5-point game this past week, but he's on the whole been a top 24 running back and been someone that you've gotten some really, really good starts from, some RB1 starts from. So on the whole, I think the upside of Dobbins just trumps it by a bit for me, especially as the team that is favored in that game, and sometimes when you get into those low over-under games, what you don't necessarily realize, that's because the running backs are just eating up the clock the whole game, which could be nice for a J.K. Dobbins. So, yeah, I'm once again right there with you. On to our third. This is another flex play question. So, who to flex between Cortland Sutton, Lad McConkey, or Jordan Mason? Which actually, I think this one's a pretty good question. I think the other two were, like I said, the last was closer than I expected. The first one was not very, very hard for me. This one was tough. I know we're both similar, but it was tough.
Yeah, I've got them ranked as such. I'm going initially right now with McConkey over Sutton, and I would play Sutton over Mason, but there is a little bit of a caveat here. It's McConkey over Sutton if Johnston doesn't play. If Quentin Johnston is out again, then I want to go with McConkey. If Quentin Johnston plays, and it looks, I mean, he's iffy right now. We don't know. If Quentin Johnston plays, though, I think then I would go with Cortland Sutton. And let me tell you why. McConkey's been better the last 2 weeks, but who's been limited the last 2 weeks? Johnston missed last week. The week before that, he only had 4 targets there. So McConkey's been better, much better the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks is what you drafted McConkey and wanted out of him the whole time, and have not gotten, because that offense has been such a spread it out and use every weapon at Herbert's disposal kind of offense. I like McConkey over Allen based on the momentum over Keenan Allen in that offense right now. Allen, his yards have cooled off the last 3 weeks. He doesn't have any touchdowns in the last 3 games after having a touchdown in each of the first 3. But that offense is just too big a cluster, you know what, for me, if Johnston is in as well, and especially now with Aranda Gadsden kind of starting to come on, and now they have Kimani Vidal that they look like they actually want to use until Omarion Hampton gets back. That Indianapolis defense is tough. They do give up the 5th most points to wide receivers, though. So like I said, if Johnston doesn't play, I really like McConkey in this one. If Johnston plays, Cortland Sutton is a top 12 play according to ECR this week versus the Giants. Okay. The Giants just gave up one of AJ Brown's best games of the season, the underwhelming AJ Brown so far this year, but they gave up six catches on 9 targets for 80 yards for him. And you know, the Giants, they're 3rd in points allowed to wide receivers there. So Sutton he does have a great matchup there. So I like him if McConkey is not the alpha or the unquestioned alpha for the day in Los Angeles. And then when you talk about Jordan Mason, I mean, he really hasn't done much outside of that Cincinnati game, and Cincinnati sucks against everything pretty much. Philadelphia gives up the 8th most points to opposing running backs, but this is one where, you know, yeah, the Vikings O-line might be a little healthier after their bye, but this is a game where Philadelphia's favored. I'd rather look elsewhere, to be honest. I'm not excited about that idea. We still don't really know who's going to play quarterback for the Vikings on Sunday, as both of their quarterbacks, Carson Wentz and JJ McCarthy, are practicing, but kind of limited in that practice. So I'm not excited about the Vikings offense this week, even though they're coming off a bye, and it is against Philadelphia, and Philadelphia's been underwhelming the last 2 weeks. Give me McConkey, then McConkey if Johnston doesn't play, then Sutton, then Mason.
I have it the same order. I'm just going to personally remove the caveat. Now, if I literally have them back to back, if Quentin Johnston plays, like 15 and 16, they're right there. The primary thing for me, boy, oh boy, I've been very impressed by my Colts this season. The injuries in the secondary have piled up dramatically.
Yes.
And that
injuries and
self-inflicted injuries.
Guys leaving.
Had some of those.
Guys quitting. Yeah.
That's just the big part of it. Treverius Ward is still in concussion protocol. And then otherwise we've got Mekhi Blackman, who was a semi-recent addition. Kenny Moore in the slot, but that's kind of irrelevant. That's more of a Keenan Allen problem. And kind of the point in that Keenan, who very well might be the other guy, has the only matchup that you care about if Treverius Ward isn't able to get out of the concussion protocol. I feel pretty solid about Ladd. Even if QJ plays at that point, I think it's a toss-up. I'd be happy to go either way. But I just personally lean. I talked about the over-unders both these games earlier. I personally lean the higher scoring game once they get down to that tiebreaker. McConkey's
still ranked 18th this week, ECR-wise. So it's not like, it's not like there's a ton separating them anyway. But I don't think I have him. I would not have him that low if there's no Quentin Johnston in this game. I mean, like you said, I see them real similar and real close to each other. But is Steichen going to just skip pregame warmups this week so they can actually get some guys to the freaking game?
I sure hope so.
What the hell?
Yeah. Just
wrap Daniel Jones in bubble wrap and keep Jonathan Taylor on the
Jonathan Taylor doesn't need to warm up. That's
no, just let him get some rub down and he'll be fine. Yeah, no, it was like every 5 minutes there was another tweet coming out from Ian Rappaport last week, like, another Colt just went down in pregame. So.
Yeah, it reminded me of Justin Herbert getting his first start off the Tyler Odd.
Right. The punctured the perforated lung or whatever.
The only other like bizarre pregame injury that I could like remember off the top of my head, as soon as I heard that, I was like, what is going on? Another
elastic band broke his orbital bone, fractured orbital bone.
Ridiculous. I mean, who would have thought that Anthony Richardson getting injured in like outlandish ways? Who would have thought? On to our next question. Another question about the flex spots. This one I thought was pretty interesting as well. Woody Marks, who had the one really great game and then the kind of two kind of so-so games. Wanda Robinson, who has been pretty solid in the wake of Malik Neighbors' injury, or Matthew Golden, the Packers rookie, who I'm gonna let you talk about.
And we need to pick two of these, correct? He needs two of the three. Yeah, two of these three for
the bench one functionally.
Yeah, they've got two. They've got two flex spots, and they're asking which two out of Matthew Golden, Wandale Robinson, and Woody Marks here. I am going to go with the two receivers in this one. I'm going to go with Matthew Golden. I'm going to go with Wandale Robinson. Golden, I mean, he's coming off of what I think is his best game of the season. Probably should have been even better. I think they missed a couple of opportunities there with him, but he even had a couple of running attempts that went well. Arizona, they struggle a bit to get pressure. So if they give Love time to throw, I think he could find Golden all over the place, especially if they can get Golden matched up on Max Melton there, because Max Melton hasn't given up a score, I don't think, yet on the season, but he has given up a ton of yardage. And honestly, I think Matthew Golden might find his first score and the first score against Melton this season. I think that might be coming up here for them in this game against the Cardinals. As for Wandale Robinson, you said it. He's been the leading receiver on the Giants the last 2 weeks without Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton is iffy to play, may not play, is listed as out, I think, right now. They really don't have a whole hell of a lot else there. Jalen Hyatt, I had high hopes for in Dynasty, and I still have him in a ton of places in Dynasty, but I think he's proving that was a fool's errand. Denver's tough on wide receivers. But listen, he might be facing Patrick Surtain a lot of the time, but Wandale Robinson might be the only real option in that pass game in terms of wide receivers. They've got Theo Johnson, who has looked better lately. And they do have their running backs that they might be able to get involved there, but there's not a whole lot for wide receivers on that team. Robinson has 12 catches on third down too as well this season. That's fourth in the league. So when it gets tough, when they need a big spot, they are going to look for Wandale Robinson. And with how mobile Jackson Dart has been, with how he's been able to get out, run around a little bit, I still think that Wandale can get loose for enough to do better than Woody Marks, who's facing a tough Seattle defense. And honestly, if you look at what happened last time they played, I know they're coming off a bye, and a lot of times rookie players, rookie kind of semi-starters coming out of a bye is kind of a nice bet generally. But Nick Chubb hasn't gone away. They're not going to just bury him, I don't think. I think they're going to continue to kind of break Woody in slowly. I like Woody rest of the season, like kind of we talked about earlier with Jackson Dart. I like Woody Marks rest of the season, but I'm not so sure I'm big on him this week. So give me the two wide receivers there over Marks.
I went the same way. Wandale is like easy for me. That one's like, to your point about the matchup, they've got a great secondary over in Denver. But thankfully for Wandale, he has been moving around a decent bit. He plays I think around 35% on the outside, 65% in the slot, which should help him kind of avoid those monster matchups on the outside.
Right.
And then you talked about it with the rookies coming off the bye. Like, we could get lucky with Woody Marks coming off of his bye. It's possible. He may blow up and make both of us look stupid.
And it would be awesome. It would be awesome for everybody who grabbed him off the waiver wire, who has been stashing him because they didn't believe in Nick Chubb. But and
he's someone you should be holding on your roster the rest of the season.
Yes.
Because I think it's bound to happen. But Golden just showed what he was off of the bye and still has room to build off of it. He's already proven that he's improving off of the bye and that his role is improving. So I'm just going to go with the guy that I've already seen be good, rather than we had the one great game with Marks, and then otherwise it was we went from 6 carries to 20 carries and back to 6 carries. It's all right, well, I don't know what to do with this.
Chubb hasn't gone away. They continue to insist on giving him the ball, and I have a lot of respect for Nick Chubb, so I'm not going to necessarily second guess that. I mean, that team hasn't really been doing a whole hell of a lot, no matter who they give him the ball to. But the Matthew Golden thing, I know I'm biased as a Packer fan, but I am so excited to watch this team throw the football if and when they can get Christian Watson back on the outside and have Watson, Dobbs, and Golden on the field at the same time. And that's not even talking about the idea of having maybe Jaden Reed back in that mix as well. But then with Tucker Kraft as well, and with the way that Josh Jacobs can pound the football, he's been inefficient this year, but when they give it to him, they get results. Oh yeah. I wasn't big when they drafted Golden, and I think I've told you guys that. I interviewed him at the combine, or at the draft, and I was a little underwhelmed with what I saw there, but he's looked good as a player. And then last week showed me something. I mean, I think he really can be a wide receiver in this league. I don't know that he's that bona fide one, but for this week, I like him over Woody Marks at least. So.
Yeah. With you there. On to the next, we've got who to start. So this one is going to be one running back spot and one flex spot, by the way. And this is full PPR for this question as well. That's Jalen Warren, Kimani Vidal, DeAndre Swift, Xavier Worthy. You want to go ahead and start this one off?
I don't have a ton that I have to really say about this. I don't think Cincinnati sucks. They suck versus running backs. They suck all over the place. New Orleans is tougher versus running backs, but I think, again, like I said earlier, the Bears, I think, will be in control in this game. So for me, it's going to be Warren and Swift over Vidal and Worthy. I mean, Vidal, again, is facing that tough Colts defense. And with Xavier Worthy, I mean, hey, this is it. This is what everyone's been waiting for. Everybody in fantasy who had him, and the Kansas City Chiefs have been waiting for this since week 2 last year. Rashee Rice is back this week, everybody. Now, I don't necessarily know that he'll jump right into being the number 1 target, but I would not put that past them, to be honest with you. I think Worthy gets relegated to a kind of a boom bust shot play kind of deep guy. And I think Rice retakes his role as the main cog in that passing attack, even over Travis Kelce. So it's Warren and Swift for me. And when you set that lineup, whoever's question this is out there and whoever wants to know about it, make sure that you put Warren in your running back slot, because Warren is playing the Thursday night game. You don't want him in your flex spot and then have something screw up later this week. And now you've limited yourself in terms of your lineup flexibility. So put Warren in your running back slot, put Swift in the flex spot. Remember, that flex spot isn't just necessarily for like your 3rd or 4th best guy at a position. It helps you like maintain your roster throughout the week in terms of your
maintain some flexibility.
Flexibility in case a guy gets hurt or whatever. So make sure Warren goes in that running back slot.
Yeah, and I hate to do it because we've been doing it all day. I have the same duo. So for me personally, I have Jalen Warren as my RB17 and DeAndre Swift as my RB18. I have Vidal at 21, and I'm still cool with Xavier Worthy. I was actually very, very close to the second guy being Xavier Worthy. But man, that game script is really enticing for Chicago against New Orleans. I think most other matchups, I think I would have gone more Worthy. I think that Rashee Rice can go into a supercharged version of the role that Juju has had, and they can kind of both maintain some kind of relevancy. And Kelce just hasn't looked that great this season. I think they're not going to completely phase him out because what he means to that franchise, but I don't think that he needs to be anything more than the 3rd or 4th guy.
I don't think Taylor will let them phase him out. I think she'll raise some hell if they start.
He's going to still be out there. He's going to be the starting tight end.
He's going to be there.
In terms of targets, I think Xavier Worthy is still going to be fine. I think he's going to have plenty of opportunities. I still love him season long. But for this week, the running back for the Chicago Bears against New Orleans, who has had a really tough time this season, that's just too enticing to me personally.
I will say, and as far as Kimani Vidal goes, though, for those of us, myself maybe leading that charge, who gave up on him after last season, because it looked like that team wanted nothing to do with the guy that they had gone out and brought in. The usage the last couple of weeks has been encouraging. Now, yes, when Omarion Hampton gets back, Omarion Hampton is a bona fide number 1 running back. I think he looks like he can be that in this league. And I think Hampton looks like he can be that on all 3 downs. I don't think you have to take him out, but considering that they were using Hassan, the meat wagon Haskins, as a passing down back over Kimani Vidal last season, I wasn't sure that Vidal was ever going to have a role even with this coaching staff and on this team, but it's been very encouraging the last couple of weeks. So dynasty wise or keeper wise, and that there will be a role for him going forward. And I don't necessarily know that they do like a thunder and lightning Hampton Vidal kind of thing, but he's at least worth rostering in dynasty. But also, I mean, he may have some standalone type of value depending on how they use the two when he gets back. So it's an encouraging outlook for Kimani Vidal, much more than last season anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's putting a lot of talent on your bench for whoever's asking this question, to be honest with you. I have all three of these running backs as RB2s pretty close together. And like I said, I have Worthy as a wide receiver too. So for me, all these guys are startable guys.
This almost feels like a 0 RB or a hero RB type draft that this person had.
It hit on all of the cheap running backs.
Right. They got all these dudes, but all these usable guys now on the bench. So good work.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah. Good work. Good drafting. All right. We are actually on to
hot air. So hot in here.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a guy who, for a lot of teams, probably was a hero running back. And that is Derrick Henry is going to be our first guy for the Dynasty temperature check. For those of you who didn't watch last week or didn't watch last season, talk about this through the lens of Dynasty specifically, but we're going to look at season-long outlooks for these guys as well. We're going to look at a handful of trades to kind of gauge what value these guys are going for. At a lot of these buy-sell type segments, people just go, oh, he's a buy, oh, he's a sell. We're trying to give you real offers that have really happened in real Dynasty leagues. So to kick this off, Derrick Henry is the most traded player this week after a lot of people, I guess, jumping ship after that kind of comeback game this past week where he kind of looked like himself for the first time since the fumble against the Bills. Yeah. I agree. But let's look through the numbers. That's 11.8 points per game in half-point PPR. That is 22nd at the running back position. Derrick Henry himself has gone for some of the example trades. Straight up for a 2026 first, and this is one that I don't mind myself. Now, other trades include a 2028 second and a 2028 third, a 2026 and 2027, so two second-round picks, or Jordan Mason and a third rounder. So a guy who's been a startable running back so far this season plus a third rounder. Chase, you've kind of let the cat out of the bag on how you feel about this whole situation, but give me your explanation. Which of these deals might you consider? Which of these would you not? And kind of if you're rebuilding and maybe like your other injuries in your team, you're looking at 1-4 and you've got Derrick Henry. How would you go to navigate kind of trading him or considering trading him?
Yeah, if you're selling him off because you're in a rebuild and you want to give him to a contender, don't do it right now. And he had a little bit of a comeback game last week, but he hasn't been terrible this year outside of the unfortunate reality that he's had some high profile fumbles in high profile games that have cost his team in those games. Fantasy wise, he has not been that bad. He hasn't been what you drafted him for. No, he has not. But
like I said, RB2.
He's an RB2, and they've been without Lamar Jackson. And Derrick Henry is a much better player when that team is at full strength and they're winning. Because when they're winning, what do? They give it to Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry helps them to win, and he closes out games for them and crushes the opposition like Conan the Barbarian, right? Drive your enemies before you and hear the lamentations of the women. Don't sell short on him just because he's had a couple of high profile fumbles this season so far. Okay. So like you mentioned the 2026 first round pick, I think that's just fine. Yeah. If you're rebuilding, you're trying to sell Henry off to a contender. Yeah. Get yourself at least a first round pick for him. I like that trade. Trading him for a distant 3 draft out 2028 second round pick and a third round pick, I think you're way underselling him in that case. Honestly, remember, you can't necessarily look 3-4 seasons out in a dynasty round because dynasty leagues don't necessarily always last that long. There's no guarantee for the future there. I think you're underselling him for just a second and a third there based on what King Henry can still do for a team this season and maybe even next season as well. Selling him for the 2-2s, I like that because you and I kind of talked before we got on the show here. 2-2s, I can equate that to a 1. And if you're rebuilding, a couple of 2s are going to be very valuable to you. If for no other reason than it gives you more ammunition to go get whatever you might want. Okay. And then selling him for Jordan Mason and a 2026 3, a third round pick isn't worth a whole hell of a lot, in my opinion. Jordan Mason, I like the dude as a player. He's a guy that I wouldn't mind having on my real life football team. And when the guy in front of him is not healthy, I like him on my fantasy team. But there's a reason nobody has made him a bona fide drop dead, like no questions asked, number 1 guy on their team. He is better as a complement, as a backup. He's a reliable guy as a backup. He's a reliable guy in your fantasy lineups as a backup. He's a great handcuff pick. He's a great guy to take in that 0 RB, hero RB setting that we talked about just a few seconds ago. But I think that you're underselling Henry if you're just selling him off for few, like distant future 3s and players they're lesser players than him. Get yourself something of value for him. He's not the bum that everybody I think wants to make him out to be just because he's had a couple of high profile drops this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Baltimore is a team that is in a weird spot right now. And I think when you're in a spot like they really need to rely on their stars. And whoever the star that's healthy is Derrick Henry. Right. And they kind of showed that last week where they did kind of rely on him quite a bit more than they had in the first month of the season. He's still a 5-yard per carry back so far for the season. Yes. He has the 3 fumbles, which sucks, but he's still running fine, especially this past week in the first week. He's like 11th in yards after contact this season. He's still breaking tackles. I would not be overly concerned about Derrick Henry. If you're a contender, I'd just keep him. I wouldn't consider trading him.
No.
And if you're not, I would want a first or a first equivalent for him personally.
Yeah. And keep in mind, again, Baltimore and Buffalo. Baltimore and Buffalo are your 2 bye week teams this week, by the way, everybody out there. So Baltimore on a bye this week. They come back from that bye. You'll have a healthy, squad. Hopefully you should be able to get, Lamar Jackson back. And with that team at full strength, I think they look a lot better. I think Derrick Henry looks a lot better in retrospect. Don't sell him short. If anything, if you do want to sell him, don't do it right now. Maybe when people are down on him, maybe wait till, for a week or 2 here until he has one of those nice pop games and then sell.
Yeah, definitely agree. Kind of on the other end, a guy who's on a bit of an upswing right now. I guess, like I said, Derrick Henry had a good game last week, but it's generally been a downward season for him so far. Diggs, I think, has impressed a lot of people. He's been the most traded wide receiver, the 4th most traded player overall this past week. 9.1 points per game, which is 38th, and that's in half-point PPR. But that doesn't really tell the whole story. The last 2-3 weeks, he's been a really, really good wide receiver for the New England Patriots, who, by the way, Drake May is someone who is, I think, entering the MVP conversation for himself, especially if he can take this Patriots team to the playoffs when they have some marquee wins where that's very, very possible. The Bills being the big one, but they can hang. So
first place in the AFC East, baby. First place. Your New England Patriots back at their, what they probably feel is their rightful position. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So Stefon Diggs, some recent trades for him include, so there's Dallas Goedert straight up, which is a bit of an interesting one, especially Dallas Goedert to start the season at least had been really, really solid for you. There is a 2026 third and a 2027 second, so a second and a third. They're straight up for the 2026 second. And then there is Isaac Tesla and a 2026 third. And then there is Stefon Diggs plus 2 2026 seconds for AJ Brown. So that's kind of a throwback, if you will, to last week's episode, the Dynasty Temperature Check, where we did talk about AJ Brown himself. So Chase, run me through those values. How do you feel? I mean, he's had, this past week was a little bit disappointing, but otherwise, Buffalo and Carolina were some really good games for him.
No, he looked like Stefon Diggs of old. And honestly, I mean, he's caught just about everything that's been thrown to him this year too. He's having a really great year in terms of like when they do target him, he's catching the football. And then, like you said, against Carolina and Buffalo, he kind of cranked it out, turned it on, looked like Stefon Diggs of old. including 10 for 12 for 146 against Buffalo. Now, he hasn't scored yet on the season, but I think that's just a matter of time with the way that Drake May's been playing. Drake May has been they have to feel so much better about their quarterback position after seeing Drake May play last season and this season. I know when he was first drafted there, I think Dan, I know, was one who kind of chuckled a little bit at Drake May going there and wasn't necessarily sure that he liked him going there. But I really like what they've been able to do right there with Drake May and with that passing game. They have not done a great job historically of drafting their wide receivers, but when they've gone out and grabbed guys in free agency that are high profile, big names, they tend to work out. And Stefon Diggs, I think, is working out for them. Trading him straight up for Dallas Goedert, who is an inconsistent, always tantalizing, but never really coming through for you in the clutch type tight end, is a move for me. But it's not egregious, I guess, depending on what your needs are on your roster. I mean, they're both kind of getting aged out of their, prime years, and you want to be getting something for Diggs. I'm not necessarily sure I'm thrilled with a return of Dallas Goedert, but it's not an egregious return. Getting a 26-3 and a 2027 second round pick for him, I think, is a nice return for him. I think that when you look at the value combined there, you're trading your aging guy, like who I said is aging out, but for a couple of future, assets. The 26-3 is not terribly valuable, but it's more immediate. That 27 second round pick is going to be nice. I think that'll be the fun part of that return for him. Trade him straight up for a 26-2 for a next year's second round pick, I think is a fine trade. I think that's a straight up trade. Getting Tesla and the 26-3 back for him, I think is a nice flip. I'm not necessarily sure what this receiving core looks like going forward fully. I'm not, I'm not overly confident in Jameson Williams and his spot on that team. I think Isaac Tesla has shown that he can be a factor in this league. I think he can be an actual player in this league. And I think that especially across from a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, when they can complement each other, when Tesla doesn't have to try and be the guy, I think there's some future there for him. So I think that's a nice return there. I think you're gambling a little bit on some youth over age, but I'm willing to do that in Dynasty there. And then honestly, I know I talked last week about AJ Brown, and I said that, don't undersell AJ Brown or don't undervalue him. But I think that combining Stefon Diggs and with what I think he can do rest of season with Drake May, combining him with 2026 twos, which, like we said, is equivalent to at least a first, if not maybe a little more, depending on where those picks are going to fall in the hierarchy. That might be a little bit of an overpayment there. I think you might have undersold yourself on Diggs there. I think you maybe could have gotten a little bit more there. You maybe could have at least gotten that AJ Brown guy to throw you back a third round pick so that you didn't lose out quite so much draft capital. But overall, not terribly egregious. I think they've done a decent job of selling off Diggs here.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Look, he's someone who, if you're contending, it's a bit interesting because you've seen some really good games from him, but you also look at the snap counts, and that's a little scary because it's like you haven't broken 60% of the snaps at any point this season. And look, Drake May's been awesome. The Patriots passing attacks have been great. They're like 20th in pass attempts. Yards is great. Yeah. Like all these things are great, but they're not throwing the ball a ton. And if they could run the ball and be great that way, I think they would.
They've got to figure out which running back they can be great with.
And the answer might be neither. Right now, at least with their current situation. Moving on to our next guy, though, and a guy who talk about upswing, Rico Dowdle, who has set the world on fire, ran for like 400 yards the last 2 weeks. It has been the seventh most traded running back, seventh most traded player overall. Running back, seventh most traded running back, eighth player overall. 13.6 points per game in the half-point PPR. That is 13th for the running back position, and like all the points of the last 2 weeks. He has gone absolutely nuclear the last 2 weeks, but he's a guy who he's a backup, and the running back that in front of him, Chuba Hubbard, isn't necessarily out for the whole season. He's likely to be back anytime now. So it's kind of it's a really odd situation for Rico Dowdle, and odd situations like this can make for some really interesting opportunities to sell players like Rico Dowdle, who is someone who I told people last week that he is someone who I got on waivers for free like 2 years ago. Now he is going for some interesting prices. So let's talk about it. Rico Dowdle for a 2027 second round pick straight up. Rico Dowdle and DeAndre Swift for Javonte Williams. Rico Dowdle and a second for a 2026 second for a 2027 first, which is an interesting one there. And then Torrey Horton and a 2026 fourth. And then we have 2 straight up ones. These are straight up for Jaden Higgins, a wide receiver who, if you've been watching this show over the summer, especially, I love very, very much. And then Hollywood Brown straight up for Rico Dowdle. So amongst these trades, kind of what are your thoughts? What are you thinking, especially from the lens of a team that, maybe you picked up on waivers this year or got him for last season. And, he's someone who you're like, well, now he's kind of worthless. He's sitting towards the end of my bench. And suddenly you've had these awesome 2 games, but what do you do with the guy? Because it's like, all right, you've been fantastic. Maybe you can hold on to some hope that he has a real role for them moving forward. But same time, he didn't have a role before Chuba Hubbard went down, or at least not much of one.
No, he did not. He didn't have any kind of a role. And I mean, right now, you sell the hell out of him, okay? Because he is a running back 12 on the season right now, but it's literally based all off of these last 2 monster weeks that he's had. And look at the last 2 weeks that they've had. He's played 2 of the worst run defenses in the entire league in Miami and in Dallas, and he put up 30 plus against both of them. He's only scored a touchdown in each game, but he's had over 200 total yards in both of them, including that 206-yard rushing performance against the Dolphins. He's been awesome the last 2 weeks. He's not going to see 30 plus touches a game. He's not going to average that the rest of the season. As soon as Chuba comes back, remember, they just re-signed Chuba. They just re-upped that dude. And that's with Jonathan Brooks, the top running back from the previous draft class, on their roster. Yes, he's been hurt and we have no guarantees about him. But my point is, they believe in Chuba Hubbard. They love Chuba Hubbard. They re-sign him. They want him to be part of what they do. Rico's on a 1-year contract, dudes. They don't necessarily have to worry about keeping him happy or anything else. He's running back 12 based on 2 great weeks. Sell the hell out of him. Redraft, dynasty, I don't care what format you're in, get what you can for him. So when we look at what people have gotten for him here, trading him straight up for a 2027 second round pick, that's awesome value. I love that. Trading him with DeAndre Swift for Javonte Williams, I'm okay with that because I think Javonte Williams might have found himself a little bit of a home there in Dallas. And, rest of season, we like Swift. He's been getting a ton of usage, but he hasn't scored a ton. I think what you get out of Dowdle and Swift combined rest of the season, I would trade that for Javonte Williams and what I think he's going to be able to give you in return. The 2026 2, the 2027 1. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, if you can get a first round pick by combining Rico Dowdle and a second round pick and upgrade that to a 1, I'm all over that. Torrey Horton. Jaden Higgins straight up for Rico Dowdle is a smash, except you steal that. Like you said, we have loved Jaden Higgins on this show. I think he's got a bright future there in Houston. I think he's going to be one of their main cogs for a long time. I think his value far outweighs what Rico Dowdle's value is going to be rest of season and rest of career. The only one of these that I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I see that. And I'm not necessarily thinking that the guy who got Dowdle got a steal out of is trading Hollywood Brown for him. Hollywood Brown, I think, now takes a back seat in that pass offense. He's been very, very good. Without some of their starters in there without Rice and when Worthy's missed time or whatever. But now you're going to have Worthy, you're going to have Rice on this field at the same time. That passing offense is rolling, but I still don't necessarily want the 4th, maybe 5th wheel in that passing offense in Hollywood Brown. So I'm okay with that trade. That's fine. That doesn't move the needle for me either direction. Otherwise, anything you're getting out of Rico Dowdle in trade return, man, jump on it.
Yeah, he's someone who I would probably try to move if you absolutely can. And even Hollywood, I think, might have a better return the rest of the season. But I think, I'm feeling a little parched. I don't know about you. I think it's time to go make a drink.
Hells yeah. Yeah, time for some DFS cocktail options here, everybody. And listen, you look at the slate this week, and there's not a ton of giant point totals to be had here. We did talk about the idea that Monday night, the Tampa Bay Detroit Lions game, that's got a high point total. There's a sneaky high point total there with the New Orleans Saints and the Chicago Bears. Colts and the Chargers is another one that has a high point line. But in terms of that, then when you look at some of the favorites, some interesting lines. Not a ton of giant favorites here. Kansas City's a 12-point favorite at home against the Raiders here. You got Tennessee hosting the Patriots, and the Patriots are going to be a touchdown favorite or a 7-point favorite on the road there in Tennessee. I don't think any of us disagrees with that based on how the Titans have been playing, or, I mean, if you want to call it playing. Likewise there, then the Denver is a 7-point favorite. They're at home against the Giants there, and then there's a 6.5-point road favorite. My Packers facing those Arizona Cardinals. So when we look at what we're going to look at for this week for the point totals, and we look at our base spirit that we want to go with here, I'm going to look at the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders. It's a division matchup. This is the highest over-under on the slate with a 55-point total. Dallas has given up points to everybody. They've scored points against pretty much everybody. This is, if it's a Dallas game, you know there's going to be some points scored here. And it's going back to the well a little bit here, but we're going to go with Dak Prescott at 6,500 here. I can't pass him up as long as they're rolling like they're rolling. He's quarterback 3 on the week, according to ECR. He's quarterback 3 on the year in DraftKings scoring overall. He's coming off a week where he was quarterback 7 last week versus Carolina. He was 25 of 34, 261 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. He's had at least 3 touchdowns in 3 straight games. He's had multiple touchdowns in 4 out of his 6 games this season. He is slinging the ball all over the place, and he's only 5th in salary this week on DraftKings. He's averaging over 38 pass attempts per game. They are going to toss the football. This is his best fantasy season since 2020. He is on pace to shoot the lights out here if you took him. In Washington, they give up the 9th most points to opposing quarterbacks. And guess what? Dak also he looks like he's getting CD Lamb, his top target, back this week to go along with George Pickens, who has been shooting the lights out, and to go along with Jake Ferguson, who has been a target monster at that tight end position. I like Dak Prescott this week at 6,500. We'll roll with him in our quarterback position. And then we are going to take the aforementioned George Pickens to pair with him for 7,300. Now you're paying up a little bit for him, but he's almost virtually identical in cost. I think CeeDee Lamb is 7,500 on the week if he does play there. But you're talking about Pickens, who is ranked as wide receiver 9 on the week. He's wide receiver 4 on the season in DraftKings scoring, folks. And he was your number 1 overall wide receiver last week versus those Carolina Panthers. 9 catches on 11 targets, 168 yards and a score. He's a startable wide receiver every single week. Basically that the Cowboys have played well. Throw out week 1. Nobody on the Cowboys did well week 1, but otherwise you're looking at, he was wide receiver 24. So a wide receiver 2 in week 5. He was wide receiver 2 overall in week 4, wide receiver 16 in weeks 3 and week 2. Pickens has been phenomenal all season there. He's got 6 touchdowns in those last 5 games. Washington allows the 10th most points to opposing wide receivers. And honestly, I know CeeDee Lamb might be back, but I think Lamb, I don't know that they want to run him out there and overwork him in that first game back. They've had some success with that pass game without him. I think that the nice thing about it is he may draw some coverage away from Pickens. I said before this season even started that I liked the way that Pickens and Lamb complemented each other. So I still like George Pickens in this game to pair with Dak Prescott there. So that's our quarterback and our wide receiver, and that's our base spirit there. To balance off against them, then we are not going to look at the other side of the field. I'm not necessarily overly crazy about anybody on that Washington side of the field. So we're just going to look at our running back, and then we're going to give you a tight end as well. So at running back, we're going to go with, we talked about him already, J.K. Dobbins, 5,600. He's only 21st in salary this week. And yeah, he may be more of a running back too. And I expect that from him. I expect running back 2 numbers from him. But I think this week he's got some running back 1 upside here. He's ranked as running back 18 on the week. He's 19th in scoring overall on the season for DraftKings. Had a tough game last week, but otherwise he's been really solid. He's been a rock solid running back too. 19th, 22nd, 14th, 16th, 14th, all season he's been that solid running back too. He's been hurt by a lack of targets. He doesn't do much in the pass game, but he's 10th in the league in attempts per game, folks. And he's averaging more yards per rush than a lot of the guys that are ahead of him in terms of, more usage. So he's been solid for you that way. He's got a rushing touchdown in 4 out of 6 games this season. And he's facing a New York Giants team that gives up the 10th most points, like we said earlier, to the opposing running backs. I'll go with J.K. Dobbins at 5,600, not have to pay a ton, but might have a running back a top 12 type option on your hands there for not a lot of money. And then we're going to go with Cade Otton at the tight end position for 3,700. He's tight end 12 ranked on this week. He's only tight end 30 on the season, but if you look at what he's done the last 2 weeks, he's had a much better time of it the last 2 weeks. He's tied for 13th in targets among tight ends these last 2 weeks. And in these last 2 weeks, he's 4th in total yards among tight ends there. He's a 16th ranked player at in tight end in salary on DraftKings this week. And he's facing a Detroit team that's been middle of the pack against tight ends. But listen, everybody else on that offense is hurt. Somebody has to catch what Baker's been tossing. Baker Mayfield has been balling out. If you haven't paid attention, speaking of MVP candidates, Baker Mayfield might be right there at the top of the list. And somebody has to catch that football when he's scrambling all over and slinging it. Mike Evans is hurt. Chris Godwin is hurt. Emeka Ibuka, who's been a revelation, he's hurt now. So Bucky Irving is hurt. So you're talking about Rashad White, Sterling Shepard, the Hulk of him, and now Cade Otton. I think Cade Otton can have a good week this week. So I really like him at 3,700. We'll plug him in. I also, if you're looking at tight ends, I really like Harold Fannin at 3,900, especially if David Njoku doesn't play. So before we move on here real quick, we'll talk about this cocktail we're going to make. We're going to call this cocktail the bye-week Boilermaker. Okay. And you may have seen me drinking one of these earlier. I've got another one pre-made up here. Bye-week Boilermaker. We're going to make this out of some fall-friendly ingredients here. So we're going to put 6 to 8 ounces of pumpkin ale, some kind of pumpkin ale. I used Samuel Adams Jacko here for a pumpkin ale, but you can use whatever pumpkin ale you like. We're going to boost 6 to 8 ounces of that in a double old-fashioned glass, a larger rocks glass here. And to that, we're going to add an ounce of apple whiskey. Pour that in there. There's your Boilermaker part of things. But then we're also going to add a little bit more to it to fall it up a little bit. We're going to add a half an ounce of maple-infused vodka. I used my old standby, my old favorite, the local product, American Yeoman maple-infused vodka, with some of my wife's family ancestral home's maple syrup added to it. But then also we're going to add a half an ounce of cinnamon schnapps. So with the cinnamon, the maple, the apple, and the pumpkin, you've got a full fall flavor in there. Pour that all into the same glass. Give it a real quick, just maybe once or twice stir around there. You can garnish that with a twist of orange peel if you want. I like to tap just a tiny bit of pumpkin spice on there. I'm not a giant pumpkin spice guy, but it is fall. 'Tis the season. Tap a little bit of pumpkin spice on there. There's your bye-week Boilermaker. Before we get going here real quick, Adam, you have any thoughts on DFS? Any guys that you like, out of this lineup? Your thoughts on that, or anybody that you would like to add to that lineup or see in it?
Yeah, I think you had a really good lineup. I really like the guys that you have here. The one name that I'm going to throw out that with what you have so far can fit really well, fits in the budget, gives you a lot of options. That's Drake London. For me, he's my wide receiver 4 ECR. I believe he's wide receiver 6, and he's like 13th, I believe, in cost as far as your salary goes, the wide receiver position. So someone who I think is a really good value for a high-end wide receiver in DFS this week.
Nope. I agree with that completely there. And with that, I think, folks, we're going to wrap this up. Again, we want to remind you real quick, Dan might be gone, but Operation Domination rolls on this week. I will be back tomorrow with Dr. Brian Scott talking about all of the injury news that we need to know about for this weekend. And then later this week as well, Adam will still have Chaz Filardi on. They will still be talking about some betting, some prop bets, and some game bets. All that you need to know to make yourself some money this weekend. So be sure that you do that. Check us out at the Fantasy Football Advice Network on YouTube. It's been down there on the scroller for you the whole time. You can find us anywhere. Subscribe to Operation Domination playlist. Anywhere you find podcasts, you can find all of us, myself, Dan Mader, and Adam LaRue on social media. And again, we'll be back tomorrow with Brian Scott. But until then, everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Good luck this week.
Cheers, folks.